and human relationships and bravery and authenticity. We live in a world where those things are rarer and rarer. So to put yourself in this space of vulnerability and courage is really no small feat, and I want to thank you very much for doing that. I gather so much strength for myself and so much love that fills my tank after Cyrus, that takes me and propels me through the whole month. So thank you for giving me all your good mojo. Thank you. So we always start with a quote, and today's quote is from Elizabeth Gilbert. And this quote says, "Fear is always triggered by creativity, because creativity asks you to enter into the realm of uncertain outcome. This is nothing to be ashamed of. It is, however, something to be dealt with. So if you're afraid, do it anyway." I always tell people, because I'm a social worker in my day job, I work with kids with anxiety and people with fear. The only way to get over anxiety is to do the thing you're afraid of. There's no other way. That's it. You're afraid of roller coasters, you gotta ride a roller coaster. You're afraid of speaking in front of people, you gotta speak in front of people. You're afraid of reading your poems out loud, you gotta do it anyway. And do it before you're ready. You may never be ready to do it. You're ready when you do it. That's how you get ready. So thank you for all being here, and I can't wait for this event tonight. Is going to be really special. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce my better half, definitely the sexier part of this duo. And I'm going to let him introduce our first person. But first, can you give it up for the amazing baristas behind the counter? Please tip them. And welcome up to the mic, Mr. Matt Pasca.
Right. It's the only time you get heckled as a speaker is when you say I'm the sexier. Well, we're really, really grateful to have our two features here tonight. One is from New York City, one's from New Jersey, but one just came back from London, the other one's coming up from New Orleans. So they really came a long way to be here tonight, and we are super grateful for that. Yes. Yeah. Long way. Our first feature has rocked the open mic here at Cyrus. I'll read a little bit about him to you. Poet, translator, occasional actor, and director David Siller. Grew up in... This is hype, man.
Damn right.
Grew up in Texas, has spent an identity-marking amount of time in France, and lives in Brooklyn. As he tells it, his soul is in Paris, his heart is in New York, and his family is in Texas. He is a voracious reader, a film, TV, and comic book buff, and knows more about French hip-hop than you could possibly imagine.
Oh, yeah?
It's true.
You can often find him trying to while away train delays on the F, book or pen and pad in hand. And you can always find him at waxyandpoetic.com. And I want to say, this is someone who loves poetry, who loves the arts. He's just kind of an ebullient person, and he showed up in New York City at a poetry reading I was doing, and that's just crazy. So, wonderful person, wonderful poet. Let's give it up for David!
Thank you. So thanks, Matt and Terri, for inviting me out to do this. I'm really honored that you guys would do that. So, yeah, he said all the important stuff. My name is David, and I usually don't say much before the poems. I just let the poems speak for themselves. So, I did want to start with one little thing. Merwin said, W.S. Merwin, the poet who died about a year ago, once said that all poetry is political. Regardless of what you're writing about. So, something to consider. This first poem is called Being Held Momentarily. So I'm sitting here on a Brooklyn-bound F, stuck between stations because an alleged sick passenger whose ailment is probably being sick of train delays and signal problems, which are signaling problems of ailing infrastructure and aging tracks and train traffic and even more delays and switch. But I digress. So there I am sitting, and the seat next to me is empty. The car peopled but not overpopulated, and so I indulge in a bit of man-spreading and backpack on bench beside me, and the PA crackles and croaks in a barely audible crow about the sick passenger station. And then silence. Until the guy in a seat across the aisle laments 50 years from when he was 13, but he didn't say that. He said he's 63 now. So I was stuck doing the math, which sucked as much as being stuck in the tunnel. 50 years of subway delays and failed signal relays and ill voyagers and fed-up pigeons and lost cats on tracks, and after what seems a lifetime but is probably closer to the classic quarter hour, we move into a station to hear loud and clear that this F is rerouted due to construction, so to really get to Brooklyn, I've got to switch to a G running along the F, and the moans and groans follow in unison as if rehearsed. And you know, they are, because they are. After all, this ain't our first MTA rodeo reroute barrel dodge. And as we crawl into Hoyt's Skimmerhorn or Shimmerhorn, depending on the announcer announcing the announcement, the train stops and pauses and pauses and pauses, and finally opens the doors, discharging passengers like it's choking on commuters. And we pile out and file up the stairs and over and down the stairs and fan out across the platform, fitting in and out of already waiting and impatient passengers for the G that will deliver us closer to home, but not from this fresh hell a century in the neglected making. And as the G pulls into the station, but not right away, because what's a reroute and a sick passenger delay without a wait for the train you really need going your way? The collective tide of travelers crests closer to the yellow band, and I reach out, wishing you were here to suffer with me. Thank you. This one's called Marvelous Dynamite Image, Volume 3, number 12.
Yeah!
Even in the comics, New York skies will stop you dead in your tracks as you move from panel to splash page to panel. Same way they do as you move from block to splashing in the puddle at whatever random intersection. Up there you see the maybe famous sky scratcher seemingly scraping the undersurface of clouds, the straight and narrow buildings reaching for more, often punctuated by the bosomy protuberance of water towers, or the seductive winks of billboards and LED incantations. The background is broad brushstrokes of early or late day flame tones, or the deep inked blots and bleeds of bruised nights, sometimes starry, sometimes the void between. At your feet, at least in some places, a regular grid that gives way to a jumble of streets and angles, as below your feet parallel rails trail uptown and downtown, crossing and crissing expressfully and locally. And whether on the ground cement paths or on under the ground paths of iron, there is boundless cause for hope. Eyeing the two great men celebrating 20 years together, though recognized legally for only about a quarter of that. The two ladies lost in each other more than the city, or the guy with the girl clearly out of his league. But by the sound of her laugh, you can tell she meant it when she said, "Be witty. Making me laugh is the quickest way to win me over." Yes, even on the train, these skies are never far away, covering even the man with no legs, pogoing from one end of the car to the other, one end of the train to the other, donation bucket crooked in his arm, when he's not rattling it against the train floor, one gloved, dirty hand turned skyward. Woo! Thank you. This one's called Thoughts and Prayers. This is for the gun gods. The my AR-15 weighs a ton gods. The doesn't matter what you did, you'll still get done gods. The church mass massacre calling home the nun gods. The draw on the raffle, see what weapon you've won gods. The pop the kid with the plastic pistol playground fun gods. The if you're white it's alright, if you're black you better reach for the sun gods. The stop I'll shoot you in the back if you run gods. The gun's got safeties and you got none gods. The present is dystopian without the future, set your phasers on stun gods. You have not yet spilled enough blood, and there is more to spill. You have not yet spilled enough blood, and there is more to spill. We beseech you, grant us gats for teachers and straps for preachers, toolies for tots and toasters for teens, Glocks for girls and biscuits for boys. We need burners and heaters, heat and street sweepers, a piece for peace of mind, a problem solver for algebra time. Grant us the weapons we need for elementaries and junior highs, movie theaters and senior highs, for nightclubs and churches, for shopping malls and other houses of worships, for concerts and pool parties and county fairs and baseball practice fields. We have not yet spilled enough blood, and there is more to spill. We have not yet spilled enough blood, and there is more to spill. Please bow your heads and let us, our arms dealer, who art in heaven, hollow points be your game. Your amendment come, your will be done in schools as it is in cinemas. Give us this day our daily clips and forgive us our friendly fire as we forgive those who fire against us, and lead us not into gun regulation and deliver us from safety, for thine is the gun show and the power and the glory forever and ever. Bang, bang. So I stole this first line from a friend. It's called Unafraid and Untitled, and it's for Chris.
Aww.
I guess you should steal that line too. I'm afraid I'm not afraid anymore of death, of bus wheels crushing through unplowed winter sections, walk and wait signals insignificant next to the power of physics. For I have Boeing bounced between Dublin and Boston, Douala and Dallas, Florence and Frankfurt, and the city of St. Francis. I have trained and trekked from London to Lyon, Paris to all points hexagonal. I have read enough pages to live 1,000 lives, seen enough films to circle the world 80 ways in a day. I have lost loves that made losing look good. I have given and taken, forgiven and forsaken. I'm afraid I'm not afraid anymore of love, of legs horizontal so intertwined there is only us. I are you, you is I, we. Our sweats and scents and sexes a mashup, a remix of cliches and firsts and comfort and kink, for we have emptied wine bottles in restaurants, told the sun when to rise and the sun when to rise. We have moon-bruised eyes and star-stung goose flesh. We have clipped flowers and flipped canoes. We've wandered in each other's way, been lost for days in the streets and avenues at our front steps. We have danced to no song and karaoke to them all. I'm afraid I'm not afraid anymore of tomorrow. The clock continues its quiet time-wise linear click, a through line clockwise that dizzies me from day to night to next and next and next. I don't know where I am, when I is, how and why, mysteries too. But yesterday, memory or nightmare, triumph or trauma, is nothing but background noise. It is the intersection already passed, the song just finished, the ticket already torn. This now is all and only, and the next ticks. Those that will click futures will just be now ticks. The click we see is where the clock turns. The sun burns, the moon reflects, only now and now and now. I'm afraid I'm not afraid anymore of poetry, because every writing and rewriting has already been written, and as such, you are as permanent as the universe's stretched expansion. Firecrackering. This one's called Morning of Life I Never Had.
Oh, yes.
This one's for Mike. Footsteps following footsteps, pinky hooked around pinky, and out of nowhere I saw it all. Walking in Washington Square Park, hands laced like cats' cradles, and sunset refracting sparkling champagnes at that wine spot on the Hudson. Jersey aglow after another one of our days. Locating that loft in Brooklyn, lugging boxes of books and cookware and linens to the third floor of a building with an elevator perpetually out of service, and a migration from Kings County to Queens as two somehow turned to four, and that classic statistic wore Captain Superhero costumes in October, and animal-eared winter warmers in December, and February meant prepackaged cards of affection featuring our fandoms. You're my only hope. You're my best gal. Till the end of the line. Always. Allons-y. Never mind the November dinners, families colliding in culinary cacophony, roast turkey and jalapeno cranberry chutney, and griot and bulgogi, coq au vin and couscous, Sunday suppers as all over the map as family getaways and parental escapes and wishless wanders, reenacting the choose-your-own proposal adventure every half anniversary as if scavenging the city on a hunt for happiness and health and humor. Faces familiar at every deli and restaurant and bar, such that when unpaired, the first query is for the whereabouts of the one not there. daddy-daughter dances and mommy motivating the middle school masses for the male munchkin's career day, and the four of us swirling in front of Severini's dynamic hieroglyphic of the Bal Tabarin, MoMA's minions motioning us to move from gallery to escalators to museum exits, and there we were at the Coney Island of my mind, the clackety-clack of roller coasters, the whoosh and whirl of Ferris wheels, the bob and swirl of carousels, beat sand beneath our bared soles. Footsteps following footsteps, pinky hooked around pinky, crab claw clasp, and then the pinch drew blood, would scar, and was the last pain felt before your return to him. And then I just have two more. This one is called Code Switching Number 4. And the only thing you should know that in French, the word for bread is pain, and it's spelled P-A-I-N. In French, the word for bread is pain. And the way it looks, you might start thinking that your pain always lands butter side up, and that you can't live by pain alone, and how you long to break pain with someone. And in French, bread is pain. And with no bread, no gain. And whether a bread in the neck or a bread in the butt, being racked with bread is never without pain. It's taking bread at infinite amounts directly proportional to your genius. In French, pain is bread. And to have some bread on board isn't to be fed, or even to be fed up, so to speak, just that you'll have your plate full and nothing will be easy. And give us this day our quotidian pain, as long as it doesn't involve waiting in a newfangled bread line in Union Square's Le Pain Quotidien, or its cross-street borrowed language rival Au Bon Pain. And we ask whether good pain is good bread, and broken bread is bon pain, and this poem lines bread long is itself as long as a day without bread or pain. Interminable, endless, is a lament to break the pain out of my mouth, for you to take the bread out of my mouth, because you are, according to the Long Baker bread rating scale, the greatest thing since sliced pain. Thank you. I just realized that was my phone making those notes.
Put it on silent.
Who's playing tonight? What alert?
My last poem is actually a poem I read the last time I came to Cyrus, but it's one of my favorites, and I know Matt really enjoyed it, so I thought I would read that to finish up tonight. This is for Tommy, and it's called Midnight Plays Midnight in the Middle of the Cacophony of a Bar I Frequent. And it should be done multiple times, so. So it was late one night in a sports bar and restaurant, the kind where the TVs are shiny black and high def and numerous, hanging on walls like finished framed tableau in an artist's studio, displayed for the visiting curator who may or may not buy any of these finished pieces, but they're showing all the highlights of our modern day mass entertainments, with the red and white team gunning past the blue and white striped lads playing the football you play with your feet, and another screen with the blue and red guys smashing the black and silver fellows while they battle for the football you handle with your hands, and on another screen the orange ball is stuffed in a hoop, and on another the stick hits the white ball, and you can almost hear on another screen the grunts and racket of shuffling ladies from one side of the clay court to the other, and there's no sound from any of these screens, the aforementioned sports bar opting to pump popular hits through the speakers, and I'm sitting there, flanked by friends, fringed by friends of those friends, and on the speakers I hear A Tribe Called Quest Midnight, and everything around me stops. I'm suddenly whisked back over 20 years to that night in my car where the CD player kept playing track after track on that album, and our heads were nodding in unison and in sync. We both bust out with intensity. Most rappers don't see it, spirit-wise. Musically, you gotta be it. And I reached to turn down the volume, and we both look at each other to agree that even then we felt a crisis in hip-hop coming on, and that our favorite MCs and DJs weren't getting the attentions and accolades they deserved because lesser cats with weaker raps were easier to play on the radio. And thank goodness we could hit the track back button and hear Midnight again, or turn to award tours and apt send-off as we leave the parking lot behind the theater and turn north to take you home. And it's late in the sports bar, and I think how long you've been gone. And I try to remember our last conversation as I replay in my mind the montage sequence of how we lost touch after leaving junior college, and phone calls every couple of months changed to a couple of calls a year, and how we used to see each other every day and had lunch together often, and how we used to play the dozens between classes and before rehearsals, and never worrying for 1 second that your mama jokes or my mama jokes would cut to the quick. And I think now that subconsciously I carry on these quick quips with my sister and friends and coworkers in a nod to your absence, though no one ever has the comebacks you did, and some lack the good sense to remember it's all in jest. And just as midnight starts its second verse here in this sports bar with the blonde bombshell bartender whose bright white smile reminds me of yours, I think about how great it'd be for you to be in the chair beside me, egging me on to flirt with said bartender, inflating the courage and the ego in me the way my tall beer wouldn't. And I wonder if you'd be surprised at the introvert I've become, and my tendency to sit quietly and observe and be Q-Tip's nocturnal animal. And I think if you were here, we'd think about putting some poetry to a beat, and then I remember that time listening to Guru rap about being mostly the voice, and you looking at me to say I had the voice, and laughing and pumping your fist before giving me a high five. And that night is on my mind. The night is on my mind. The sun will still shine. And I remember I'm stuck in this sports bar late on a Sunday night, and I'm 2 beers and 2 shots in, but no one knows I'm back in that godforsaken East Texas city, pulling my own cigarette smooth, reminiscing over you because a Tribe Called Quest called you back from the past. And here I am in that sports bar thinking how Boys to Men told us how hard it would be, and how hard it is now to think that I never really told you. And despite all these TVs and the eye-catching blonde pouring another pint, the night makes the aura, the sports bar, the soundtrack, and outside the way the moon dangles in the midnight sky and the stars dance around, hey yo, I think it's fly. And I think the memory has that intensity, and I nod my head, still in unison to yours, thinking you'll see it, knowing you'll see it, and then I slow down as the song fades into some other, more current, obnoxious hit. And the night is on my mind. The sun will still shine, but the night is on my mind. And you still shine, and the night is on my mind. That night is on my mind. The night.
My lovely Vanna White here will pass around a hat that you should throw pictures of dead presidents on, and also